Well, here we are with show 9, Unraveling the Secrets, and we're going to take a strong look at Creation 112. Dan, give us a look ahead here.
The biggest things in the universe are made from the smallest things, and the eternal things are made from that which appears for a moment. But when these things came into being, God became obscured from them all.
Well, we need to examine this obscured aspect a little deeper. So here's my complete reading for Creation 112. The command was given, "Let the smallest of things form the greatest, and that which lives but a flash form everlastingness." Thus the universe came into being as a condensation of God's thought. And as it did so, it obscured him from all enclosed within his solidifying creation. Henceforth God was hidden, for he has always remained dimly reflected in his creation. He became veiled from all that came forth from him. Creation does not explain itself. Under the law, it cannot do so. Its secrets have to be unraveled by the created. You know, I have to say that the first verse of this passage really gets me, because this is one of the few times you see direct quotation marks in the Kolbrin. And I'm almost wondering, who said this? Is it the original author or speaker, or is it hearsay? I'm curious. So with that, let's dive into Creation 112, verse 1. The command was given, "Let the smallest of things form the greatest, and that which lives but a flash form everlastingness."
This verse beautifully illustrates the simplicity of quantum mechanics. The smallest particles of our universe form together into larger building blocks, which are then joined to create everything we physically experience in our universe. And quantum particles called quarks and leptons are the smallest among these, and they can pop in and out of any universe in a flash, whereas once they create larger particles, they cannot do that any longer. They are fixed in the universe of their creation. Once created, the matter will remain eternal unless it is broken back down into its elementary particles, quarks and leptons.
Wow. So quarks and leptons can travel the multiverse, but anything larger cannot.
That is correct.
Oof. That's one I'm going to be chewing on for a long time. But in the meantime, let's get to, we have a combination of two verses, Creation 112, verse 2 and 3. So let's start with Creation 112, verses 2 and 3. Thus the universe came into being as a condensation of God's thought. And as it did so, it obscured him from all enclosed within his solidifying creation. Henceforth God was hidden, for he has always remained dimly reflected in his creation.
This statement, the condensation of God's thought, is very interesting to me. This implies to me that this condensation of thought of the mist within the universal womb was condensed into a singularity that would have created the Big Bang. This is a perhaps, but all matter existed in a state unlike the body of God, which was made from energy. This caused God to become obscure to substance, invisible to the natural eye. However, I want to encourage our audience that this does not mean that we cannot know God, for our spirit is made of the same energy that He is made of, and these two spirits can fellowship with each other. It is not what was said in Marshall's reading from show 5, where you said that we were slivered off, and that we are actually the same as God, and that we are able to commune. His greatest desire from creation was companionship, love, and the creation of worlds for which spiritual evolution of sentient species is continued in perpetual harmony. Which brings me to a point I'd like to make. Folks, our beings are not just physical bodies. We live in a multidimensional setup. We talked about earlier in another show as a precursor that a lot of wisdom texts say that there's actually 7 parts of us that exist in separate dimensions or separate universes simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all entangled into one place in space. Entangled is a word, it's a scientific word that means that they're all joined together and they act as one and they cannot separate from each other. So these 7 entities within the 7 universes act as one entity because they are entangled. Our 5 senses can only see the material, but our spirits, once awakened, can sense, see, and hear so much more with their inner senses. Perhaps we can talk more about this on another series if you want to, because you can get really deep into that.
I would like to do that, absolutely. But for the meantime, let's move forward to Creation 1:12, verse 4. He became veiled from all that came forth from him.
It is interesting to note that many of the wisdom texts speak of a veil that has been placed between us and God. Some speak of ways that veil has been torn or rent away, all dealing with our ability to speak with God directly through our spirit. This is what I think that they're trying to speak about whenever they say veiled.
Right.
But from God.
Well, yes, but there's a common phrase we cross over the veil, or we pass through the veil. And makes me feel that the veil is there as a protective mechanism. And just not something that appeared, but the veil is there by intent. Given what we've been talking about so far in the series, do you see the veil as being something that is a consequence of another thing, or is it integral to the mind of God rippling with intention?
That's a good question. Is it intentional or is it a consequence? That's something that we should investigate further, perhaps in another show.
Agreed. And with that, let's move to Creation 1:12, verse 5. Creation does not explain itself. Under the law, it cannot do so. Its secrets have to be unraveled by the created.
The secrets of the universe. I love the sciences. I love spirituality. I love fellowship with God. It's all there for us to learn and understand when we realize we are joined to Him. And the journey of doing so is infinitely rewarding.
Yes, I agree with that, because, the more we learn, the more we do not know. But on the other hand, it seems like the wisdom comes on a need-to-know basis. It's just not thrown at us out of context, so we can't recognize it. But it's more a case of, as we seek the wisdom is revealed.
I agree with you. Absolutely. As you've said before, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
And with that, we move on to the God question. For those of you who are tuning into this series for the first time, please be sure to see the first program in the series. It's going to explain the readings in more of a detailed context so you can understand this. And also keep in mind, this information is provided solely as a reference. Dan, for this show, what is your God question?
Marshall, I have a special question for our last in this series. What is the most misunderstood thing about God?
Whoa, that's a great one to end the series on. And from show 8, your question was, God, at what point did you create the first spirits from yourself? And the reading I got on this was actually a little longer than many of the others, but very, very profound. So let's take a look at that.
God, at what point did you create the first spirits from yourself?
Spirits are not manufactured or created. Your spirit is comprised of the essence of creation, that being a sliver of myself. Upon this you imprint your unique identity as you seek your position through the evolution of a separate identity and destiny. Therefore, you were made possible at the moment I achieved consciousness. A true gift does not come before nor beyond. It is forever a moment in which you achieve spiritual ascension via a mastery of free will, love, and compassion.
Dan, what did you think of this reading?
Boy, this is so in line with what I believe and with even what the Kolbrin is trying to teach us here in creation, in the first book, Creation 1, for instance, that we are a sliver of God. He literally fractured a small part of himself off to create us, and that we have a free will. And then an identity is imprinted upon that piece that's unique. I think it's amazing. I really like this. And to forever to achieve spiritual ascension via mastery of free will, love, and compassion. A lot of people talk about mastery of the body, but of love and compassion, they don't talk about mastering those. I think that's really important.
So do I. So do I. This was, to me, soul satisfying. It really was. And then in our last show in our series, show 10, Einstein and God, we're going to take a look at creation 114 and 115. So Dan, give us a quick look ahead at our next show.
Our sun is born to shine forth upon the earth, and dry land appears. A garment of fleece and a veil of fine linen are given her as she prepares to embrace man.
Embracing man. That's a nice thought to close out the series. So see you there.
I'll see you there.
Okay.